everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Renu from Talent Grader, and welcome one and all. Katie, welcome. Hi, I saw your message. And so this session, the 3 secrets to a successful interview, is relevant to you if you are looking for some support and guidance for your next job interview to feel ready for it. Or if you're in-house HR professionals and responsible for employee career advancement, you will also find this session very useful. And if you don't belong to any of these 2 categories, you are still welcome to stay, and you may be able to benefit from the insights that Sheila is going to share with us today. So the session will last for 30 minutes, and we are recording this session, and we'll share the recording with you. And we welcome you to type in your questions throughout the session using the Q&A function that you see on the screens, or just the chat function. Just feel free to type your questions, and I will read those questions to Sheila towards the end of the session. So welcome again. Thank you for taking time to join us. And I have great privilege in introducing Sheila to you all today. I met Sheila a few weeks ago, and her energy, enthusiasm, and passion for helping women to take that next step in their careers to become senior leaders has inspired me to ask her to do a session like this for us today. And she has readily agreed, which I'm very, very grateful for. So thank you, Sheila. So a little bit about Sheila. After spending about 30 plus years in the corporate life, leading transformation programs, building contact centers from scratch, and also helping organizations create high-performing teams, she decided to set her own coaching business, helping women to create successful careers. So Sheila, thank you so much for your time today. And before I hand you over to Sheila, just a little bit about Talent Grader. Talent Grader offers 2 core services. One of them is exec and senior HR search consultancy, and also we have a dedicated assessment platform to help HR and recruitment professionals to find talent assessments like psychometrics or work-based assessments quite easily. So you may be aware that there are lots of options available online in terms of psychometric or similar assessments. So with the challenges of finding the right assessments in mind, we've created this platform for you. So without further ado, we've got a packed agenda today in terms of our session with Sheila. So Sheila, over to you.
Lovely, thank you very much, and thanks for inviting me. It's great to be here. The more women I can talk to and help, the better, really. This today is all about how to be brilliant at interview, how to get that new job that you want, that senior leader job. And there are some tricks to interview techniques. And over the years, I've interviewed in my corporate life, I've interviewed probably thousands of people. And in my coaching life, I've helped quite a lot of women, probably into, I'm not going to go into numbers, but I've helped a lot of women anyway, guide them through that process to have the successful interview, because interviews are scary things. And, we just got to get our mindset right about them. But there are some tips and techniques that you can use. And over the years, I've seen quite a lot of things, which I'm going to share with you today, that make the difference, that actually have an impact and help you have that successful interview. So before I go into the secrets, just one thing is, if you're going for a job or you're helping somebody go for a job, make sure it's the right job. Because sometimes people go for jobs just because they feel they should. And actually, if you're not going for it for the right reasons, then you probably won't perform at your best. So make sure it's the right job, and then go all in. Because any interview panel will recognise if you're half-hearted about your performance. So I'm going to assume that anybody here today is either going all in or helping people who are going all in. So the first secret is all about preparation, and that won't come as a surprise to most people. But this is the part where it's about taking your skills, your strengths, your experience, and matching it with the requirements of the role. So it's about gathering the evidence. It's about making sure that you're properly recording all of the things that you do well, because we have these busy lives and these busy jobs, and we tend to just focus on getting it done, and we don't actually notice what it is that we have done. So if you haven't got your own evidence file at the moment, I would really recommend that you start one, whether it's on a pad or a spreadsheet or an app, however works for you. Start gathering. Every day you can put things down that have been a success in your day, because the smallest of examples can be really useful in an interview situation where you're asked for a scenario. So gather the evidence that you need. Make sure it's specific to the role. So if you haven't got evidence already and you're applying for a job at the moment, take the time, sit down and actually write a list of all of the experience that you've got that are relevant to the role that you want to apply for, you are applying for. Make sure though that you're capturing the success. So what was the result or the outcome? What was the actual achievement? Because in an interview situation, that's what people are looking for. They're looking for those results. So sit down and write yourself a list, gather all of that evidence. And then it's about research. So researching into the organisation that you're applying for, where the job is. So what are their values? What is their mission? What are their top priorities? You can look at their website. Everybody has so much information available now that there's no excuse not to find it, but go deep. Don't just look on the homepage, go into their strategies, go into their press releases, go into their corporate report and find out what their performance has been like or what the challenges are. And while you're there, actually take a moment to look at their values and their mission to make sure that actually this is the right job for you. Because, it's just a bit of a sanity check, really. Am I meeting the values of this organisation, or do they meet my values? Because if you're particularly interested in sustainability and environmental, changing the environment and improving the environment, and you're applying for a job in a company that's very commercial and got a throwaway of environment in their culture, then they may not match. So just take a moment to sanity check the decision that you've made about applying for this job. But let's assume that it's the right fit for you. Have a look at everything that they've got on there. Notice the language that they use. Often you'll find the same words, the same few words. They're looking for innovation or quality, whatever it is the customer core, or is it shareholders? Have a look at the language that they use, so that when you're writing your list of experience down and your outcomes, you can link it directly to the things that they're talking about. Then the other thing about research is to look up the people. So normally when you go for an interview, you'll get the names of the people on the interview panel. And sometimes people are a bit shy about this, but you've got all these resources at your disposal. Look them up. So look up the people on the interview panel on LinkedIn or Facebook or wherever you can find them. Sometimes their names are in press releases. See what you can find out about them. Maybe you've got something in common. Maybe you all baked banana bread through lockdown, or maybe you went to the same school. Maybe you know somebody that they know. Find something commonality, because when you get to the interview, it's all about building that relationship with somebody. You want them to remember you, you want them to build that rapport with you. So if you've got something that you can ask them about, and if you've got nothing in common, that's fine, just notice something else and then ask them about it, because it just shows that you've done your research. And I know people are a bit shy about this, but I know when I was recruiting, particularly for more senior roles, if I interviewed somebody and they hadn't looked me up on LinkedIn, I'd have been really disappointed, because you're just not making the most of the resources that are at hand. So don't be shy about doing that. And then once you've done all this research, so you know who you are, what your skills are, what your outcomes are, the company, you've got to grips with the job description, you've got to grips with what the company mission and what their priorities are. Then you have to put those things together so that you're actually tailoring the experience that you're going to share with them. So taking your list of achievements, then actually match it with their language. Think about rewording it. You could maybe use an example around, I found an innovative solution to a particular problem. Use the words that they're using, and relate your experience to what it is that they're looking for. And when you're thinking about examples, obviously you don't know the questions they're going to be asking you. So when you think about examples and scenarios that you've got, pull out a few examples that could possibly answer several different questions. And also think about behavioural questions, because a lot of companies ask behavioural questions now, not just sort of technical questions. So have a little think about that. And you can Google behavioural if you haven't come across that before. There's plenty of information on the internet. So there's a whole raft of preparation to do, and you need to make sure you don't skimp on it. You know, I mean, don't go so deep into it that you spend weeks at it, but make sure that you spend your time appropriately, focus on each area, so that by the time you get to the end of the preparation, you're comfortable that you've got enough information to go to the interview with. And then before I go on to step number 2, just there's a little mindset shift that's worth considering, because when we go for an interview, we tend to feel like so nervous and so stressed out. We're almost like, I really need this job. And you don't want to fail, because then you feel, you know, lacking in confidence and self-doubt. And we almost approach an interview like we're in victim mentality, don't we? Because oh, it's being done to us. So the way just to twist it round is to think about the corporation, the organisation that you're applying to. They've got a problem. They've got a gap. So they need to fill the gap. They're the people out shopping. They're the people that need a solution, because the organisation has got a vacancy, which is probably causing them a problem not having somebody in it. And you are the solution to that problem. So rather than thinking about you need the job, think about the fact that they need to fill that job, and you've got the tools to do that. So you're there to solve their problem for them. And if you can just twist your mindset thinking around that, then actually it just really helps the way you feel when you go into that interview. So the secret of successful interviews, part 2, is about practice. Now, this is the missing piece. This is the bit that people just don't do, or if they do it, they don't do it effectively. And just like anything else in life, you get good at the things you practice. And interviews are no different. The problem is that we don't go to interviews all the time. Some of you may not have been to an interview for some years. So how do we get that practice? But actually, we can still practice. We can still find ways to do that. So the first step to this is to preempt the questions you might be asked. So in your preparation phase, you've got all of the information about what you can do, what your results are. You know what the company are looking for. Now, the thing is to actually literally list the questions that you think they might ask you. So sit down and write a dozen questions that they might ask you based on the job description and based on what you found out about the company. And then practice them. Take your answers to those questions and practice them. And not in your head, because everything sounds very different in your head. When you're talking it through in your head, you can and ah as much as you like. You can start that sentence again as many times as you want to. You need to say it out loud. And when I tell people this, they always laugh and they want to shy away. Yes, you feel awkward doing it. Yes, you feel silly doing it. But hide yourself away somewhere. Get away from the crowds and say it out loud. Talk to yourself in the mirror, because it really makes a huge difference. I mean, if you've got somebody who can help you, if you've got a partner or a child or a colleague that you'd be happy to do that, then give them the questions, do a bit of role play so that you can actually answer it. But if you haven't got that, or you're not comfortable with it, then just talk to yourself in the mirror out loud. And then video yourself. Nobody likes doing this either. They always feel really self-conscious, but nobody else has to see it. This isn't about the quality of the video, because this is just about practice. Now, in these times, a lot of interviews are still being done on video anyway, so this is definitely good practice. But even if you're going face to face, then just practice on video. So you take the 12 questions that you've done for yourself and you interview yourself. You ask and answer the questions on video. And then you look at that video, you watch it back. Were you talking too fast or too slow? Were you talking too loud or too quiet? Were you waffling your way through the answers without making a point? Were you not giving enough information? Watch the video back and then tailor the way you answer the questions. Now, you don't just do this once. No. You do this about 20 times until you're so comfortable answering these questions that you can say them without worrying about it. Now, this isn't about scripting. So we're not talking about, actually word for word, because you don't know what they're going to ask you anyway. So the answer will come out different every time you do it, and particularly when you get to the interview. But this is about making you so comfortable with saying it that the message comes out. So even when you're nervous on the day, it's okay, because you've answered some of these questions. You've had these words come tumbling out of your mouth in some form of order. So get confident doing that. And I promise you that even when you're at the interview and you feel nervous, having practiced it, you will feel so much more confident doing it. And I have seen this really impact on positively on the success of people having interviews. So if you do nothing else from this, take nothing away from this in this webinar, take this away, practice out loud. And then the third secret is all about the performance. So this is about how you show up on the day. And this is, remember, it's all about perception. It's all about how people see you. And people judge you within the first 7 seconds of meeting you. So you've not got long. So you've got to have a think about how you turn up, how you show up, what they're, what you want them to see. And one of the things is to think about the way you dress. And, it always feels funny talking to grown-up people about the way that they dress. But I've been to so many interviews. I've had so many interviews interviewing people where they've just turned up and their choice of dress is just, they made the bad choice because they're not comfortable, they're fidgeting, they're distracted by it. So, I've seen women turn up in really nice, smart suits with a little shirt underneath, but the shirt doesn't fit properly and it's gaping here. You know how shirts do, they've not pinned it. So all that happens is through the interview is the interview panel is just distracted by seeing this underwear that keeps flashing about. So think carefully about what it is that you're wearing. I've seen people sit in interviews like faffing about with their outfit all the time. And some of it's because they're nervous, but some of it's because they've chosen the wrong thing to wear, knowing they're nervous. I've seen people with like long hair and when they get nervous, they like stroke their hair, tie it back. If you know it. So think about how you behave when you're nervous and adjust your dress for it. And then your dress is all about, I know this isn't about removing your style or your personality at all. Actually bring that to it. People want to know who you are. But just be aware that if you're too out there or too different, they've got 7 seconds to make up their mind about you. That might change through the course of the interview, but it's much harder. So dress for the right occasion. So dress to suit the position, I guess is what I'm saying. So if you're applying for, a senior leader job, then you really probably want to be suited and booted. You may never wear that outfit again once you get the job because things are much less formal than they ever used to be. But when you go to an interview, they need to know that you're taking it seriously. They need to know that you're making an effort. So you need to dress appropriately. Now, if you're going for a job as a creative designer in an agency, then you probably want to wear a polo shirt and jeans. Whatever it is, whatever's appropriate for the situation, but make sure that it makes you feel good. Make sure that you feel comfortable and confident in what you're wearing. So for an example, I'm doing this webinar here today. I'm at home, but I've got shoes on my feet, not slippers, not flip-flops, but proper little shoes. Because when I'm performing, and this is still a performance, I want to feel professional. I want to feel my best. And to me, that is having a little pair of shoes, nice top and a little pair of shoes on, because that gives me my height, gives me my stature, and it just helps me feel professional. So have a think about how you're going to dress. And it's equally as important on video, because it's not all about how you look. There's a lot about how you look. Obviously, you want to create an impression, but it's also about how you feel. And when you wear the right clothes, something that makes you feel good, then you will perform better. So just make sure that you're comfortable with no fidgeting, but that you are acting and you're looking professional. And then sit tall and be proud. Because when we get nervous, sometimes we want to curl up a little bit, don't we? We want to hide in our shell, we want to hide away, we struggle looking at people, we fidget in a bit, we're slumping. And actually that doesn't give us a very good appearance for the job that we're going for. They want to see somebody who's confident and you look like you know what you're doing. But the biggest thing here is it really impacts on how you perform and how you feel. So just standing up with your shoulders back, or sitting up with your shoulders back and your chin up, it really suddenly makes you feel different. And I know just from sitting at home, if you sit in like bored something at your desk or whatever, you don't feel as good. You're not as focused. You're not doing anything as great. Whereas as soon as you unfurl yourself and stand straight, that whole stature that you've got, it creates that feeling of just feeling better makes you feel more confident, even if you're shaking in your shoes, even if you're really terrified of doing this interview and you're really nervous. Actually standing tall will make you feel better, and it will make you feel more authoritative, and it will make you look more confident. And then of course make eye contact with people. You know, try not to look at the ceiling or look at the floor, or look at your hands. Make eye contact with the interview panel, and if there's more than one of them, make sure that you share your eye contact around with them, and then smile and engage. You know, no matter how nervous you are, make sure that you're smiling. Don't forget, because sometimes when we're nervous, write it down on a pad or a post-it beside you to remind yourself to smile, because we forget sometimes when we're in interviews. No matter how senior we are, when we go for these jobs, we all suffer with the same nerves, with the same imposter syndrome. What am I doing here? So just give yourself every chance to feel confident and act confident. And then this is about talking. So make sure when you're in the interview that you talk clearly and concisely. Make sure that you're understood, that your words come out as clearly as possible. You know, think about your volume. Don't be too quiet. If they're straining to hear you, then you're not getting your message across. And obviously, particularly on video, that's particularly important. Use short sentences. Long answers necessarily, it might be a long answer, but short sentences to punctuate what the message that you're trying to get across. And then make sure your answers are relevant. Make sure you're actually answering the question that they've asked. And sometimes, I know when we get into an interview, we start to go off on a bit of a tangent, don't we? So if you do that, don't panic, just bring it back. Recognize it, tell them, oops, sorry, I went off on a bit of a tangent there. Let me just refocus. And if you feel like you haven't answered enough, because nobody wants to be the person where they have to drag information out of you. So it's like making sure you give them enough information without giving too much information. So make sure that you have, and again, you can ask them, say, have I answered that how you need? Is there anything you want me to clarify? Would you like some more information? And they'll say yes or no. And definitely no waffle. Do not keep going off on that tangent. You've got to bring yourself back, because as this picture shows, they just stop paying attention and they won't be listening to you anyway. And notice that. Look at the behaviour of the interview panel to give you an idea of how the interview is going. One little tip I learned many years ago is that when you're answering a question, generally people are writing or typing answers, but generally still writing. If they stop writing, then they've got enough. And that's when you stop talking. And maybe you say, is there anything you want me to clarify? But if they stop writing, then they don't need anything more from you. So then just to wrap up your interview, it's about asking them an interesting question, something that makes them feel like you're really properly interested in this job, that you've done your research. So you want to probably ask them when you're going to know about the job, but otherwise the question that you ask needs to be something juicy, something meaty, something from their website that you found out. It might be what would be the first priority for the person coming into this job. It might be what's the biggest challenge the organisation or the industry has got at the moment from their point of view. But it might be that you could pull something out of the research you did earlier and actually ask a question like, I noticed that your complaints performance has dropped over this last year. Why is that? What are you planning to do it? And find something relevant to the job that you're applying for. But if you can ask a question that's a bit out of the ordinary, then you'll stand out from the crowd. So that's the end of the interview process. They're the 3 secrets. And as I said, if you take anything away from this today, then please practice out loud, because that is the single biggest difference that I have seen when people practice their interviews. And just to finish off before I hand back, remember that you may not get every job that you go for, and that's okay. That's okay to do that. Don't let it knock you back. The thing is, if you don't get the job, is to learn from it. Try desperately to get some really good detailed feedback from the organisation that you go to. If you can get a call, that would be great, or some email with some really useful points in it, and then take those points on board. No excuses. This is all about improvement so that you can get better the next time. But this is all about practice, and just go for the job, do your best at it, and then learn from it if you don't get it. And if you do get it, celebrate. Fantastic. So, any thoughts or questions from that?
Sorry, I was on mute. Just
right.
checking to see if there are any questions. I haven't got any questions here, but we'll just allow people to type if they have any questions. While we are waiting for any questions to come through, Sheila, I just wanted to say what simple yet important and powerful techniques you've shared. And as you say, you know, practice is so key, isn't it? I've been on the other end as a recruiter, you know, conducting lots and lots of interviews, and yet when I had applied in the past as well for an interview for a job, that just made me feel so nervous.
Yeah.
And it kind of just shows, isn't it, when you're not so prepared for an interview, unless there are some people who are there who are kind of natural at interviews. And interviews are still widely used by every organization, and you may have never come across where an employer would have appointed based on a test that you've done. So they always kind of use interviews, isn't it? So interviews are still widely used, so quite important technique. So don't have any questions here, but I just wanted to ask a question in terms of, you know, one of the things that you've said is prepare to ask some questions. And currently, as a recruiter myself, and you know, I know some of you who joined us today are also recruiters yourself, whether in-house or agency. You at the moment, a lot of the candidates that I'm working with, or the clients, should I say, are very keen to understand from me as a recruiter about the clients that I work with, is that what are the companies doing to keep their employees? So that seems to be the key question. So if you, you know, as recruiters or candidates yourself have been asking any questions that could help others as well, please feel free to share as well. So you know, the pandemic has highlighted that, you know, how organizations are looking after employees is quite key. So do ask that question if you haven't considered that. That might be very helpful to understand what the organization is doing.
Yeah, and I think that's really valuable as well, because actually the one thing I didn't say was that actually an interview is a two-way process, and you have to feel that you're going to enjoy working there, that you're going to fit in. So don't be scared to ask those questions, because it's really important for you to find a job that suits you, and you know that, because you don't want to get a job and then find that it's not going to work, you know, not the job but the culture maybe. So absolutely ask a question about culture, or how it's going to fit around your life, how it's going to fit around your values, because that's so important to find a job that works for you.
I agree with you. And also in terms of what you said about twisting the mindset, don't feel that like it's your need, it's the organization's need as well. So I find that quite powerful, actually, just to think about it from my perspective as well. So great. Doesn't look like we have any questions.
Okay.
But you have Sheila's contact details on the screen there. Feel free to reach out to her if you'd like to kind of take her up on further support with the interviews. And do check her website as well. So I'm just going to, before I let you go, I'm going to very quickly share with you the upcoming webinars we're going to be hosting for you, kind of focused around HR directors and HR senior leaders, and also to some extent recruitment leaders as well. So these are the topics that we will be running very soon, and I'll be following up with the registration link to you all. So thank you, guys. Thank you for your time. Thank you for attending the session. And Sheila, thank you so much for your time as well.
Thanks for inviting me.
Thank you.